In this video we're going to talk about some basic controls and parts of your motorcycle. So if you are learning to ride a motorbike, or if you want to learn how to ride a motorbike, then stick around. This video is going to be great. Hi guys, my name is Vinny and you're watching We Ride. As I said earlier, in this video we're going to be talking about some basic controls of your motorbike and some parts of your motorbike. So if you haven't already done so, subscribe my channel and hit that notification bell, guys, so every time I make a new video, you guys are the first one to know. Alright, let's get straight into today's video. Alright guys, what I want to do is I want to move on the right hand side first, and then we'll move on to the left hand side and have a look at our bike, what the parts are and what the controls are. So I'm sorry about the wind, guys. If you can hear a lot of wind noise in the background, I am in a very windy place at the moment. I'll just show you how windy it is. Yeah, so yeah, I do apologize about the wind noise. If you know, if you guys can hear a lot of wind noise in the background. I've sort of hidden myself behind this truck which was in the car park, so hopefully this works. Okay, the first thing we want to look at is the whole assembly over here. We've got the tires, we've got the rim. Now some of the bikes actually come with spokes instead of the alloys, so it just depends what kind of bike you have. Usually the off-road bikes, they come with spokes. The road bikes usually have an alloy, but the older bikes had spokes, so just depends what sort of bike you have. But that's the tire, that's the wheel, the front mud flap, the disc and the disc caliper. This is where most of the braking will be done on your bike. So 80% of the brake on your bike is actually done by this thing over here, so make sure you look after these bad boys. Right, so moving up, that's the front fork. So the shock absorbers basically, you know, and these are your indicators. So that's the right hand side indicator. Moving along, here we have the rear brake. So as I said, the front brake takes the 80% of the braking power. The rest of the 20% of the braking power is through this pedal, so it goes through here and activates the rear caliper, and here's the rear disc brake. Here's the exhaust pipe, and the exhaust is connected to the engine, and here's the engine of your bike, the thing that runs your bike. And here is the rear shock absorber. Usually you would have seen two shocks at the back, so shock absorbers at the back, you know, one on the right and one on the left side, but on my bike I've just got one single shock absorber in the middle of the bike. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. These are the foot pegs, so where you put your foot, you know, you sort of put your foot like that and apply the brakes. Alright, now I'll move on. So this is the fuel tank. Now some bikes have a big fuel tank, some have a small fuel tank, but usually it's sort of you know, is about 10 to 14 liters of fuel in there. Mine's about 11 liters, I think. Alright, I'm just going to turn the bike on and see what all controls we can see on the bike. Alright, so on the right hand side, this is the accelerator. So you know, when you start riding your bike or when you're learning your bike, just sort of be very gentle with this thing. Now one good thing to know about whether your accelerator is working fine or not, it should, when you pull it like that, it should snap back in its original position, right? So that's just a tip for you guys. That is the engine kill switch, so that is off position, this is on position. When you are learning to ride your bike, it will definitely happen to you. Your kill switch or your engine shut off switch will be turned off, and you'll try and turn your bike on and it won't. So the first thing you do is you check your engine kill switch if you have one in your bike. So there it is, guys. That's the ignition. So we press that, the bike should start. Yep, that is the sweet sound of the motorbike. I love it, absolutely love it. There you go. So that is your front brake. So the 80% of the power, like I said earlier, it will be taken by this thing over here. So, and just the same way as the accelerator, you want to make sure when you press it and when you release it, it sort of should go back in this position. Now some of the bikes will have this kind of the adjustment thingy over here, so you can actually adjust the distance according to your hand. So just look out for this thing. It's actually quite useful. So this is where the oil for the disc brakes live, and you can check the levels sort of from here. Obviously my bike is on a side stand, so this level is actually not accurate at the moment. You need to make sure your bike is actually on a center stand if you have one, to make sure you check the oil level for the disc brake. I'm going to move on to the rear side, the indicators, the brake light, and the parking light, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, as soon as you turn on your ignition, a light should come on in here, and the left indicator. I'm going to start from the front, guys. So the front, the left hand side indicator, and this is the gear shift. So all the bikes, the first gear is always down, and then there is neutral, and then all the other gears are up. So one down, then neutral, and then two, one down, and then neutral, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So yeah, you should practice that. The foot peg, and that is the side stand of my bike. Now my bike doesn't have a center stand. Some bikes do, some bikes don't. Mostly the cruiser bikes don't come with a center stand. So there you go. We'll just go over here. So that's the chain. Obviously my bike's a chain driven bike. You may have seen a belt driven or a shaft driven bike, but my bike's a chain driven drive. So here's the chain, that's the chain guard, the rear sprocket. The front sprocket should sort of live around here for the bike. So obviously that's covered because you don't want any dirt and grime going in the front sprocket. Yeah, so the rear wheel and the rear tire and the rear wheel and the disc brake we've already touched upon, and I'll just sort of move on the front controls. On this side we've got the hazard lights, so you turn that and you'll see the blinkers go on, so that's the hazard light. The low beam and the front beam, should always drive on low beam unless you're on a highway and you can't see anything in front of you, then you go on high beam, but usually you just drive on low beam. And that's the button for the signals. So the left hand side turns the left signal on, the right hand side turns the right signal on, and when you want to turn the signals off, all you got to do is push the button in and it turns it off, rather than going back in position. And here's the horn. That's the horn. Moving on to the dash over here. Now my bike is a bit, obviously all the bikes are different, but you would usually see an RPM meter in there. I've got a digital sort of speedometer. Some bikes have like a analog, I mean, you know, those olden types speedometers. I've got a digital one, and here's the light for neutral, so it tells me when the bike is on neutral. That's the engine oil light, which will turn off when I start my bike, and the indicating, sorry, the turn signals or the indicator light. So when the turn signal is on, I'll just turn the left one on. There you go, you'll see that flashing. Now you can obviously turn that off when you are done with your turn by just pushing that button. And here's the right signal. Now these two buttons over here are for the screen inside. This one takes me through all the range and the odometer and the trip meter, and this one is to reset the trip meter and to reset the clock and everything. And the most important thing is the key switch. So this is in on position at the moment. That's the engine off position, and you kind of on my bike you kind of have to push it and to lock the bike completely. So you're going to push the key and turn towards your left to actually lock the bike. Now the other thing is you will have to sort of put your handle completely and lock it in one position. Usually it's on the left hand side to actually lock the bike. Now that is because it actually physically puts the lock in the frame, the front frame or the front fork, so that your bike, the handle cannot move. Oh yes, and of course your rear view mirrors, one on the left side, one on the right side. People put rear view mirrors over here, you know, sticking out. I personally don't like it, but it's you know, really up to you. It is important. I mean, it's illegal not to have a rear view mirror, so you have to have a rear view mirror of some sort. You can either have it on the handlebars, or you can just have them mounted like mine. Mine's a stock rear view mirror. It's actually quite big. Helps me to see what's behind. I've seen people put small and fancy rear view mirrors. I'm not a big fan, guys. Safety is number one for me. That's why I want to keep the stock rear view mirrors, because they're large enough for me to see what's happening behind me, and you know, I can sort of easily gauge the traffic that's behind me. So, and that's the front fairing. That's the seat. The seat on my bike is actually pretty interesting. I mean, the whole bike can be sort of changed in terms of the rider. So if you are a short rider, you can sort of adjust these foot pegs and get a higher seat. Mine's pretty normal. It just came as it is from factory. That's the rear rack that I've installed just to carry some tail bag. If you want to see what sort of tail bag I have, I've already made a video of installation of that tail bag, so you can find it up in the description. Alright guys, I think we've pretty much covered all the basics of your motorbike. If you liked the video, then hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you think I've missed anything, hit me a comment and let me know if I've missed anything. Alright guys, till next time, ride safe. Bye.